Welcome to the Audio Imaginarium. Come on in, weary traveler, hang your cloak on a peg, grab a stool, and come gather round the fire. There are stories to be told, and you are among friends.
Good evening. It's Bob, W6CJX, and this is the Papa System Great Outdoor Net. Thank you, Richard Surratt, coast to coast host. And just love that little intro, come in, warm yourself by the fire. Because we have some stories to tell tonight, but I'm only going to tell you that much so far. This is Bob, W6CJX, and I'll be your net control operator for tonight's Papa Great Outdoor Net. This net meets each and every Sunday evening at 8 p.m. Pacific. This is a directed net, so please go through net control at all times, and your cooperation is always greatly appreciated. Before we get started, let's pause for any emergency or priority traffic. All right, hearing nothing but crickets, we'll continue with the net. Stations with emergency or priority traffic come into the net any time with a double break, and net control will respond appropriately. The Papa system is an open membership-supported system in the Southern California area with coverage from the Mexican border to Paso Robles and from the Channel Islands to Las Vegas, Nevada. If you are a visitor to the Papa system tonight, I invite you to go to papasys.com, that's PAPASYS.com, and register as a guest. With your guest registration, you'll have 45 days of free access to the Papa system. At the end of your guest access period, we'd love for you to become a subscribed member and continue to use and be a part of the Papa system family. However, all amateurs are welcome to participate in the daily, weekly, and monthly Papa system nets regardless of their membership status. Again, this is the Papa System Great Outdoor Net. All right, I put the crickets back in their cage, so they're all set. Hope everyone's having a good Memorial Day weekend. I know we are here to remember the fallen soldiers, men and women. They served for us and gave us this opportunity to have some freedom, and also to be able to show our support on this weekend and for Memorial Day tomorrow. So I hope you're out and about tomorrow. Look for some parades if you have the time away from work and meet the family. Maybe you find a couple of parades. There should be some good flyovers in different places, so that'll be fun too. So hopefully you get to do something like that. And like I said, take some time just to think about why we are here, not for just barbecuing and being in the great outdoors. It's also about what everyone gave and sacrificed. All right, with that, let's see, what else have I got here? I guess I have some announcements we can run through. We do have the picnic coming up soon, so if you haven't got your picnic ticket for your picnic basket, I encourage you to go to the Papa website and do that. I think we've got a pretty good number going. Also keep in mind, if you do buy a raffle ticket, and we encourage everyone to at least buy one, you'll probably walk away. Got good odds of walking away in a winner, because there's quite a few prizes out there that we're going to be giving away. So please, maybe at least buy one ticket. I can do that, I think. So stand by for the announcements, and I'll be right back. All right. Well, like I said, we do have the picnic coming up very soon, and we'll be able to... Let me see if I have something here. I can just kind of read it to you the old-fashioned way. So we do have the picnic coming up, and welcome all members and guests and friends. We'll be meeting in person on Saturday, June 8th at 10 a.m. for the annual Papa Picnic. We'll be at a new location at the Falcon Flats Group Area in Irvine Regional Park. The park is located at 1 Irvine Park Road, Orange, California, 92869. We will be in a different area, so keep that in mind. It's pretty easy to find, and there is a map on the Papa website. Please purchase your barbecue meal ticket at the Papa website as soon as possible so we can get an accurate head count. We will have a choice of hamburgers, veggie burgers, and hot dogs, along with macaroni and potato salad. And to drink, we'll have some Coke, Diet Coke, Sprite, lemonade, bottled water. Each meal is $22, which also goes to, paying a little bit for the park. We have to pay to get in there. Please use your PayPal button on the website and the picnic information area. Purchase your picnic meal ticket. We'll also have this great raffle prize drawing again here at the Papa Picnic this year. And we have a list of some of the prizes. They're all listed, most of them, on the Papa website. We do have a Icon 5100. We have a grab-and-go Go box. And we have a couple Anytone radios, an 878 UV Plus and a 168. We have 10 Bio-Inno batteries and chargers of one model, and another model of 10 Bio-In batteries. So that's there too, and chargers. The tickets are $20 each for the raffle, and you'll only be able to buy them at the picnic. So anybody that buys a ticket and wins will be there. So you must be present to win. There is a $5 charge to get in the gate. See the map, more details on the PAPA website. We look forward to seeing all of you this year at the PAPA 2025 picnic, because it's going to be a blast. All this information and a whole lot more you can find on the PAPA System website at papasys.com. Okay, I think we had a wonderful event down in Tustin today, so I'm going to check in real quick with Evo, KI6LOV. He was in charge of that antenna show and tell down in Tustin. So if Evo, if you're there, we'll take whatever you got. Please join the net.
Hey, good evening, Bob, and everybody on the net. KI6LOV here in Tustin, and yes, we had a very, very good event this morning, and part of the afternoon even. It was about 2:30 before we left the park there, while we had planned to leave around noon. Gosh, I hope I counted right, but we had 9 antennas up in the air, and at least 9 radios were out there set up and playing voice FT8. We sent emails out, and it was a lot of fun. A lot of people, well, there was 18 people did sign in on the sheet that we kind of late produced, and so we had 18 people signing up there. I'm not sure if everybody who was there did sign up, but it was very good, and yeah, it's definitely something we will do again in the fall, like we usually do. The park was great. We had people asking questions and showed a lot of interest. The Karens, they stayed home, which was another bonus. All right. Again, thanks everybody who participated, and special thanks to Logan and James and Jason for driving all the way out into Tustin. Really appreciate you guys, and yeah, hope to see you guys soon. All right, back to you, Bob. KI6LOV.
Well, thank you, Evo. Sounds like it was a great, successful time. I'm glad James and Justin got down there, and everyone else showed up. So I heard a few people said they were en route down there, and looks like it'd be great. So we'll look forward to some pictures, and thank you for that great update. Well, let's get on with the net. Let's see, we had a little get-together with our daughter, son-in-law, and another get-together with my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, but Carolyn's brother. So it was kind of a two-stage get-together, barbecue party, whatever. Made some hot dogs and chili, and just had some family time, which is really, really good and important. Okay, well, like I said, I'd like to thank Richard Serrett for the intro this evening. I love that. He does that for his intro on Coast to Coast. And tonight's net is called Fireside Captain Stories. This is exactly 1 year to the day, because it was on Sunday. And Steve, KI6LOV, who we all know and love, he did his very first cabin stories on the net, and that was exactly a year ago today. And it was, we didn't even plan this. We were just thinking of doing it. Thought it would be a good way to kick off summer, since Memorial Day weekend is kind of the unofficial kickoff, I guess, of summer. So it's kind of fun and appropriate time. Steve's cabin lies within the Angeles National Forest and in the San Gabriel Mountains, and there's really no access by road. It's actually a 3-mile hike out to the Upper Winter Creek Trail towards his cabin in the woods, and he's been celebrating 50 years, like I said, in the cabin since 1975. So this is his 50-year anniversary. So let's say hello to Steve tonight. Come on in and say hello, Steve. We all love KI6LOV, not just because we love his call sign, but he's such a great guy. So KI6LOV, please say hello.
Well, good evening, Bob, and everyone out here on the great outdoor net, and thanks for inviting me back. I really appreciate it. And tonight, I would like to, for anyone who is new to the Papa system and maybe hasn't heard of my cabin or heard any of my stories, I'd like to make sure and refresh some of the good ones that people enjoy, but maybe bring in some other aspects of the cabin and why it's there and what the cabins in the forest are all about, and just to kind of freshen things up for the people who've been here before. I'll give it back to you, Bob, and see if you have anything in particular. And then I have a little bit of history I can share. KI6LOV, back to you.
Well, welcome, Steve. And we worked a little bit on this and came up with kind of a three-category thing. We have animal, people, and trees and things, because there are a lot of things around up there, too. I've been enamored with Steve's cabin, and I have not been there. I have to confess, that's my own fault. No one else is. Not that I've never been invited, because I have been. But when I first heard Steve about 2013, when I first became a member, Papa member, and getting into ham radio and being able to go hiking with a ham radio, when I heard there was somebody on the radio here that had a cabin that you have to hike to, I was just all in. And why I didn't do it right then, I don't know. Now I wish I had, and I might still make it there one day, Steve. We'll get it together, but I sure like that, and the whole concept of how that, and the history of the cabins up there off of Winter Creek Trail. Also like to thank Matt, K3MAT, for all the great photos. If you go to the Papa website and do a search and put in cabin, C-A-B-I-N, it'll pop up, and it'll be about the first thing you'll see. And there's a really nice article with photos and videos of Steve's cabin. So you can follow along with that if you're behind a computer, and go to the website and check that out. So just type in cabin, search for that, and you'll find it's called Beyond RF, Romeo Foxtrot. Okay, well, let's see. We get started with, let's see if Steve, if you have some questions for Steve, let him, find out. I still have a few lingering that I want to know. So KI6LOV.
First, I'd like to just explain briefly how I happen to have a cabin in the Angeles forest that you have to hike to. And I did extend my timeout timer a little bit, but I still have to be careful, Bob. So back in the early 1970s, and I was taking some classes at Santa Monica College, and I joined a hiking club that they had there, and I ended up going out to this cabin. I mean, all my friends from lab class said, Steve, you've got to come out to this cabin. You're going to love it. And on New Year's Eve, 1974, so 75 was my first year there, we all went out there and had New Year's Eve party, and holy cow, I fell in love with the place. And it's in, as Bob mentioned, it's in Big Santa Anita Canyon, and it's just below Mount Wilson on the eastern side of Mount Wilson. And you cannot drive to it. It's a 3-mile hike, and as Bob mentioned, if you go on the website, not only does Matt have some great photos and a couple of videos, but the track log of the hike in, where you start at Chantry Flat above Arcadia, and then hike on in for the 3 miles to get there. And I'll extend that and tell more about it later. But anyway, that was a long time ago, and I've been out there for so long, I have some great stories. At least I think they're great. All right, so I do have a lot of animal stories and people stories and other kinds of stories from being out in the forest and all my hiking miles and Bob's favorite story, or one of them, is up in the local mountains we have California newts, which are little amphibians very similar to a salamander. And the story that Bob mentioned is called Salamander Love. And one time I just was at the cabin and I went down to the stream, and it was in the month of April, maybe back in the 1980s. Maybe, no, it was later than that. But anyway, I went down to the stream and I was just looking around to see what I could see, and I saw something kind of in the shallow area of this little mountain stream. And when I came closer, it was a ball of newts about the size of a baseball, just rolling around. And when I got closer, I realized it was the newts were spawning in a giant ball of whatever it is they secrete, and it kind of blew my mind. I'd never seen that before. And so anyway, I've seen that several times since, and it's something that is very unusual, I think, for most people to have witnessed. So that's life out in nature. So there you are, Bob. We're done with that one for now. KI6LOV.
Yeah, I get a kick out of that. I trying to visualize it and then trying not to visualize it some ways too. But I think, just you're so used to, or we're used to, or are used to what you see in your surroundings, and probably the first time you saw that, it just must have freaked you out. So it would freak me out now, because even if I knew about it a little bit. I want to continue with that same realm, if you want to. Let's see if Steve wants to tell us about Godzilla.
All right. So yeah, we'll move up the evolutionary chain just a notch and go from amphibians to reptiles. And I think it's obvious that some of the animals I see out there are reptiles, snakes and lizards and of all types. And one day I was just sitting in front of my cabin, and there's a little rectangular yard in the front that's about maybe 15 by 20 and lined with rocks. And I looked across from the steps I was sitting on, and I see a little lizard, not bigger than 3 inches long, and it's looking at me. I can see it's looking at me, and it's starting to do push-ups, and it's all agitated, and it's like running back and forth and doing push-ups. And if you know anything about reptiles, that's a sign of territoriality and aggression. And so it hops from rock to rock, and it's coming closer to where I'm sitting, and it drops down on the dirt, and it runs across towards me in the dirt and hops up on the rock wall of my cabin right next to the door where I'm sitting. And it jumps up on the rock, runs up, sitting about 12 inches from my face, and it just starts doing push-ups, and it is looking at me, and I just thought, man, I am so happy that thing doesn't weigh like 5 or 10 pounds, because I'd be in real trouble. This thing is angry. And it had no idea how small it was. It was just all about keeping its territory, and there I was, and he lives there, and he's probably there every day, and all of a sudden I'm there, and he really didn't like it. So that was my story I've called Godzilla.
Well, that's one of my favorites too. I think we can all relate to the lizards. We have quite a few here. I think they're all just blue bellies, but just love them, because they don't harm anything. And it's great when you see the babies. There's little tiny things in there, kind of like going, man, you're so small. But we don't have a cat or a dog anymore, so they don't have to worry about them catching them. But I always see them doing their little push-ups, and I never really knew that either, at least until I talked to Steve, that it's a kind of a form of like, hey, you're in my territory. I just thought they were happy to see me. W6CJX for the Papa System Great Outdoor Net. We're talking to Steve KI6LOV about Steve's cabin and some stories. Fireside cabin stories is what we're talking about tonight. And, do you want to take a couple check-ins, Steve, and then we can see if anyone has any questions? I got a couple that I'd like to ask, but let everyone else have a little spare game. We'll break it up a little bit. So let's take a little round of check-ins, and then if you want to just say hey to Steve or you have a question for him, that would be great too. Please contact Net Control.
November 6, Hotel Alpha Lima.
November 6, Alpha Quebec, Quebec.
Kilo Oscar 6, Hotel Juliet.
Kilo Oscar 6, Juliet Charlie Alpha. Alpha Bravo 6, Mike Bravo.
Kilo Charlie 6, Whiskey Tango November.
Okay, I think we got a little group there. I don't want to go too far, and we don't want to just take a bunch of check-ins because we want to have some time with Steve to maybe ask a few questions or something. And a few of you have been here before. Like I said, it's been 1 year since we did the very first one. We did do another one in September. It was kind of the end of summer. And then we thought, well, let's come back and do a little bit more, kick off the Memorial Day weekend and maybe like I said, the unofficial day of summer, which isn't quite there yet. All right, well, let's say hello to Hal in 6HAL. Do you have anything for us tonight regarding Steve's cabin? We'd sure love to hear from you. And if you want to go direct to Steve, you can. Just send it over to him. Since we're both net controllers, I think we can handle. Go ahead, Hal, in 6HAL.
N6HAL. Thank you, Bob. And hello, Steve. I don't have any specific questions for Steve, but I'd like to hear everything he can tell us about his cabin. It sounds very interesting. I wish I had the physical strength to hike up there and take a look at it, if nothing else. But I'll just sit back and listen and enjoy the stories. Thank you. November 6th, Hotel Alpha Lima, back to the net.
Do I have it?
Yeah, you can go ahead. Go ahead, Steve.
All right, Hal. Well, thanks for coming by and saying hello. And if you're in front of a computer, I don't know if you missed the beginning of the net, but go on the Papa website and go to the little search window on the front page and type in Steve's cabin, and you'll be able to find a really good presentation done by K3MAT, my buddy Matt, and you'll see all about it, and that'll give you a little more perspective. All right, back to you, Bob, KI6LOV.
Well, like minds think alike, because I was just going to tell him that too, so good. I'm glad you were able to and did that. Yeah, definitely, Hal. I mean, it's kind of fun to go there and look at. I couldn't believe, because I was only envisioning what his cabin might look like on the trail and the surroundings all these years. And then when Matt took a hike with Steve that day and was just snapping a whole bunch of pictures and videos and things, especially the one where the cabin doors open and the fog is coming in, it's just to die for. If you're a hiker or an outdoor person at all, I think you'll appreciate those great works. I call them works of art. Pretty darn good capturing of the moments. Okay, and let's go to Dale and just say hello to Dale. And if you have anything for Steve too, we're just going to do it kind of casual tonight. Steve's here. We appreciate him coming by and spending his Sunday evenings with us. We'll get into some more stories here. Let's go ahead with Dale in 6AQQ.
Good evening, everybody. This is Dale on 6AQQ. It's 62 degrees in Tustin. The only thing I have for Steve, it's probably been asked before, how do you cook in the cabin? Do you cook inside, or do you use a camp stove and sit outside? Just curious, and 6AQQ, back to that.
All right, Dale. Well, I'll tell you what. I have a fireplace, and many times over the years, I've done like a foil packet, and I put various things in there, as you can imagine. You know, a pork chop and potatoes and onions and whatever, and do it right there on the fireplace and in the bed of coals. And then I also have a propane stove, and that's the other thing about my cabin. Down at the parking area, which is known as Chantry Flat, and you can look that up on Google, and you'll see the Adams Pack Station. They actually have burros that bring supplies whenever you need them. I normally don't need much because I basically backpack in what I need for the weekend, but every now and then I need some materials for repairs, and every couple of years I need to get new propane tanks. I don't use a lot of propane, so it lasts a long time. But there you go, Dale. That'll answer your question. Back to you, Bob. KI6LOV.
Well, thank you, Steve, and thank you, Dale, for the question. It reminds me of the day when I think I mentioned it not too long about on the net, where we had to start a fire in Boy Scouts, and I think it was raining out. This is up in Idlewild down at Isomata, and we had our Boy Scout meeting there, and that was my turn to light a fire. Well, it's not easy to light a fire out in the rain, so we did it in the fireplace in the lodge that we were having our meeting in. And so it worked out because I brought all my tinder and got it all going, and you could only use one match to start it, and you had to cook dinner. So it just reminds me. And I don't know if Steve ever did baked potatoes. We love the baked potatoes we used to throw in the fire when we go camping. We need to do that again sometime. I learned that from my grandfather by he would put them in the fireplace up in Idlewild when we have snow out and everything. He'd make a roast or something. It might have been New Year's or Christmas Eve or something, having a prime rib, and he'd put these baked potatoes in the fireplace and roast them in the coals. And I mean, they are just delicious. I don't know what the difference is. Maybe a little smoky flavor or something. I did get a station, I think, that ended in Juliet just after Dale, and I didn't get anything else. I think you're KO6, something with the Juliet at the end. Please come back.
Yeah, that's Kilo Oscar 6, Hotel Whiskey Juliet. Hello, Steve. I've talked to you a few times when you've been up in your cabin, and I had watched that video, and I really liked it. I did see the hike out there, and boy, I'm a little jealous. Not much, but a little jealous. It's a beautiful spot to be able to get out and have a little primitive site like that. I just want to say 7-3s to you. I'm going to let the radio go and just sign off and say 73s. All right. I just thought it might be an interesting time to put a little bit of history in. And so for the first about 15 years of when I was first going up to the cabin, it was all owned by the San Antonio Hiking Club. And it was basically a club cabin, and I had a lot of friends from college, and we would still all go up there, and it was kind of like a collective. Everyone knew that you couldn't make a reservation, but that if you went up there to be alone and somebody else showed up, that's kind of too bad. And so it was a lot of fun that way. And then later on, pretty much the club disbanded and people moved away and lost interest. And I was able to acquire the cabin from the balance of the membership of the hiking club, and then it became mine in the 1990s. But I was always the cabin manager. I was the guy who was always there, and I did all the maintenance, and so that's kind of the backstory of how the whole thing got started. And there's a lot more, but it's a long time. A lot of water under the bridge there, Bob. Back to you, KI6LOV.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think you lucked out on that for sure, being able to. But I think you put a lot of time and effort into the cabin before it was kind of yours, to other than just being the cabin manager. But I was thinking today a little bit about some of the parties you guys must have had, because you're talking 50 years. We're not just talking, a couple years back here and there. No, we're talking 50 years. That's 5, decades of this cabin. So in that length of time, there must have been some great stuff. He's probably got more stories than he can even remember, I would imagine. I don't know. Well, thank you for that. I didn't get a name, and I looked back in my log. I found your call sign, KI6LOV, but I still didn't have a name there. So if you can give me your name for the log, and we'll move on.
Yeah, my name is Alan, KI6LOV. Definitely appreciate the net, too. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Well, thank you, Alan, and thanks for the question. That's really great. All right, next cup, we got 3 Jeffs in a row. What is that called? I don't know. We'll figure it out. KO6, JCA. Jeff, welcome.
Thank you, Bob. Kilo Oscar 6 Juliet Charlie Alpha. I think it's called Jeff Trifecta. I think this is a fantastic topic. I'm also an avid hiker, as is Steve, and I've been hiking for many years, and I have a question for Steve. In all those decades that you've been at the cabin and hiking back and forth, have you ever had a face-to-face encounter with a mountain lion on your travels up there? I'd be curious to hear. Thank you. KO6JCA.
All right, Jeff. Good question. And I've had face-to-face encounters with many different animals, and many times with bears and other smaller animals. I've actually seen bobcats, but I have never seen a mountain lion face to face. I have seen them on a trail cam, and I have a couple of great videos that I've saved over the years of the mountain lion by my cabin. But once I saw that, it made me think twice about being safe going out for the call of nature at night. But no, I've never seen one face to face. I know people who have, but they're pretty secretive and they don't really like people. And I had a friend on the Papa system here who was a state, actually an animal tracker, and when he saw the video that he showed him, he said, if you ever see her, you're already in trouble. So, yeah, they don't normally bother with people unless they're super hungry. KI6LOV. Back to you, Bob.
That's a great question, Jeff. And I didn't know for sure if he hadn't seen one or not on the trail or up by his cabin there. And that's the way I used to, or I'd hear from some of the rangers when I'd be camping in the back where there was rangers. This is kind of a rare sight now, almost as rare as the mountain lion. But yeah, like Steve said, if you've seen a mountain lion, it's probably too late, unless it is on a ring camera or in some other form, because they are, and you have to kind of think of them as just a big house cat, meaning they like to play. They like to play with their food. They like to play with their prey, whatever it is, and they are very stealthy, just like a house cat would be if it was. But yeah, they're just bigger and can do a lot more damage. But that's a great question, and that'll lead us into some animal stories. So he's got a few of those too. AB6MB, Jeff, the other Jeff in the middle. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, Bob and Steve. I actually have some squirrels here that I feed and peanuts and whatnot. And do you have squirrels out there at the cabin that you kind of have, they come around and look at you like they want some food or anything like that? And yeah, I'm really glad that there's a long story about that cabin, 50 years. That's absolutely great. So I don't know, it's the only question I could think of right now. So back to you. I guess I'll go direct to Steve. Go ahead, please. AB6MB.
All right, Jeff. And yeah, there are squirrels, but they're not. I think we talked about this one time on the radio. The squirrels that are out by my cabin are the gray squirrels, and they're a little bigger. And the ones that we have here in town are, I don't know the genus name, but they're known as fox squirrels or red squirrels. And everybody sees those every day. And the difference between a rat and a squirrel is a good PR company. So there you go. Ba-dum-bum. Let's see. Well, okay, I'll give it back to you, Bob, and maybe we'll tell another story. How about one of my people's stories? What do you think?
All right, people, it is. Yeah. You know, and I wonder why the gray squirrels are more up in the higher altitudes. That's the only thing I can... You know, I grew up with gray squirrels up in Idlewild, and I know they have them in Big Bear and all the other mountain communities. And the only other place that I've ever seen a true gray squirrel, which they're just beautiful compared to our regular squirrels, which are nice too, was up at Waller Park up in Santa Maria. That used to be one of my haunts when I'd go for lunch or just have to do some paperwork, or I think I even had 2 interviews back in the day when I was doing another job. And I was really impressed that Waller Park had all these beautiful pine trees, and they had gray squirrels, and I thought, that is so cool. But yeah, I don't know why it's, I'll have to look into that a little bit, get into some squirrelology. We got one more station, another Jeff. We got 3 Jeff trifecta, KC6, WTN. Welcome, Jeff.
Hi, Bob. Thanks for hosting the net tonight. And good segue for Steve. I know he's mentioned it before, but I would love to hear the story about when he was visited by the nuns at the cabin, KC6WTN.
Yeah, you guys like texting back and forth behind the scenes here? That's perfect. That is one of my all-time favorites. So it looks like that's what you're going to tell us now, Steve, whether you want to or not. Let's hear about the flying trail nuns.
All right, very good. Jeff, you were reading my mind. That was the one. So this probably story comes from probably the mid-'90s sometime, and I was hiking. At that time, I started hiking in many times on what is called the Lower Winter Creek Trail, and you'll see that on a map or if you Google search it. And almost up to my cabin, about a half mile from my cabin, another trail that comes over from the main canyon called the Zion Trail meets up there, and there's a trail sign. So when I'd be out hiking like that, I'd always be aware of the people around, and I was kind of a docent and always been a forest volunteer. So I would like to chat people up and see how they're doing, and it was always a lot of fun. So I was right there at the trail junction, and I heard voices, female voices, and they seemed like they were real happy, and they were hiking, and they were coming down the Zion Trail. So I waited for them, and then they came around the corner, and I'd never seen this before. Walking around the corner were 3 nuns in full-on habits, and they were brownish habits, not the normal like black with the white headgear you'd see. And they were just walking right up to me, and there was an older woman and two younger sisters, and they were walking right up to me, and I just said, you know, I just don't see this every day. And they were so friendly, and we started talking, and I explained why I was out there and who I was, and the elder sister said to her companions, you know, if we ask Steve real nice, he might let us come up and see his cabin. And they looked and they said, oh, we'd love to. And I said, okay, sisters, let's go. And so it's about a half-mile hike from that junction up to my cabin. And they came up and we were talking, and it turned out they were from the local convent. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name. Down in Sierra Madre, I believe. And they just love to go out hiking and, see God's territory and all that. And so they came up to my cabin, and I opened it up, and they came in, and they had a look around, and they stayed for a little while, and then they thanked me, and they had to get back on the trail to make it back down. And before they did, they said a little prayer and blessed my cabin, and there you are from that day forward. The cabin was blessed, and I always knew it was special, but from that point on, it certainly was. So that's Sisters on the Trail right there, Bob. KI6LOV.
And thank you, Jeff, for bringing that one up. That is one of my favorite. Now, Steve, I got to ask you, did they have on hiking boots under those habits?
Oh yeah, no, they had hiking boots, and they had day packs, and they were prepared. I'm certain of that. So that was a singular occurrence. That happened once in 50 years, and talk about something special to have happen out on the trail. Yeah, it was really. I just have never forgotten that one. That's for sure, Bob. Back to you.
Yeah, that just would be something out of a movie or whatever. You just see these nuns cruising down the trail, and then let's say they didn't have their nunnery wear on, or what do you call habits, I suppose? I don't want to call it a uniform. You wouldn't know they were nuns, probably. You would just think they were regular people. So kind of neat that was part of their hiking attire. From Steve. How about one of your bear stories? Does that sound good?
Let's see. I have quite a few bear stories. I've encountered the California black bear many, many times in my years on the trail, and they're not very aggressive. They're normally fearful of people, but if they've had human food before, they really would like your sandwich. And I have a story called Bear at Hoagie's Trail Camp. And Hoagie's Trail Camp is about half a mile down. It's right near the Zion Trail Junction that I mentioned earlier, and it's a backpacking camp. It has a lot of history. It once had cabins and things, but those are long gone. And I was hiking up the lower Winter Creek Trail one day, coming up to Hoagie Camp, and when I entered the confines of the camp there was a teenage girl, like a college-age girl, and she was like really frightened and agitated, and she said, "Excuse me, can you help me? There's bears in the campground." And I said, "Sure, just let's go. Let's see what's going on here." And I walk into the campground, and it's a little, you can imagine, amongst the oak trees, and a little campground with tables and fire rings and things. And she took me over to where she and her friend were camped, and I put my pack down, and I asked her, where are the bears? And she goes, "Over there." And I looked, and on one of the picnic tables, there was kind of a small bear, maybe like just 3 or 4 feet long. I mean, just like kind of a tiny bear. And it was up on the table eating somebody's picnic lunch. And so I only saw one bear, and she had told me that there was more than one. And I asked her where the others were, and she pointed up into a tree, and there were 2 of the tiniest little cute bear cubs that you could ever imagine up in this tree, you know, about like 15 feet off the ground, and they were just sitting up there. It turned out this other bear was actually the mother, I assumed. I don't think it would be the older sister, but anyway. And then there's a group of hikers, day hikers, these Asian guys and ladies, and there are a lot of Asian hikers. They love to hike, and the bear had come up, and instead of trying to frighten it away, they just backed off and let the bear have their picnic lunch. And I scared the bear away, and I got kind of angry with them because, you know, and I understand that the regular people don't know how to handle bears, but this was just a tiny little bear. And I frightened it away, and I told them to come over and clean up their mess, and they couldn't believe what they saw. You know, they had no idea that they could just scare a bear away if they tried. So with that, I left them to what they needed to do and went back over to talk with the 2 girls. The hikers started cleaning up their mess, and the girl comes over to me and she goes, "Wow, you're so brave." And I go, "No." I said, "I might be, but, you know, this is just another day in the life up here at Hoagie Camp." So, and I said, "Don't be afraid of the bears. Just be aggressive with them, and they'll run away." And that was about it. And I left them to their camp out and went on the rest of my hike up to the cabin. So that's the bears at Hoagie's, or also alternately known as the frightened girl. Back to you, Bob. KI6LOV.
N6 Hal, recheck.
We got you, Hal. Or Yogi and Boo Boo. We kind of covered that last weekend with Smokey the Bear. But yeah, they definitely got a hold of the picnic basket. You know, I have one question, and maybe I was going to save it, but I might as well ask it now. I think we've covered it before, but I know you have the fireplace, and I've seen there's pictures of it. In fact, I'm going to use that for the podcast of this net on the YouTube. It's a wonderful photo that Matt took of just the inside of the cabin with the fireplace, since we did the outside before. And where do you actually get the fire? I mean, obviously in the woods, and you don't bring it up with you, but what kind of wood do you find? And I would imagine it has to be something that's already dead or laying around. You can't cut trees and things down, but just fill us in on a little bit of that, Steve.
Okay. Well, there's no shortage of downed wood. Branches that break off, and smaller trees, and especially since the big bobcat fire, there's so many dead trees. It's just crazy. You know, many people have asked me, well, it must be a lot safer since the forest fire, and that's just not true at all, because now there are hundreds, if not thousands, of dead trees everywhere. It took a couple years for them to die. We thought they were going to be okay, but they got so hot that eventually they just couldn't make it. So yeah, lots of dead wood around my cabin.
Yeah, that's what I would figure, especially with the fires going through there, and some of the trees didn't make it. I know in La Jolla Canyon, after that fire went through there, a few of them did survive. They just kind of started sprouting up from the bottom, some of the sycamore trees and things. But that's good in one way. I mean, at least you have that ability. You know, if I was Steve, I told him this before, I would be up there like the whole time. I'd go up there for a week at a time or something. I just love that. I think that would be just so great. All right. Well, thanks for for my question, Bob. Thank you, Bob, for that question. And Hal had a recheck. Let's go with Hal real quick, and then we'll take a couple more questions or check-ins. Just kind of keep it rolling here. And so what has Hal got for us tonight? Go ahead, Hal.
N6HAL. Now, a couple quick comments. I have seen that video about the cabin and all the pictures, and they look great, and I saw the trail. I just don't think I could hike up there, but it sure would be fun. Secondly, when you guys were talking about squirrels, I was watching the eagle video, or live video, and there was a squirrel in the backside of the nest trying to harass the eagles there. So that was kind of interesting to watch for a while. I think he's still hanging around. And a question for Steve to consider maybe is your most interesting, exciting, and unusual occurrence up at the cabin. N6HAL, back to the net. Thanks for the break.
Okay, sounds good. Now let's send it over to Steve if he wants to go with that, or let me know.
Yeah, that's a really good question. The most, well, there's never been any real disaster or anything like that, and I've never had. I've had people show up completely lost with no water, and I'd help them out. But I think one of the most unusual things that ever happened was, and I'm not sure exactly when this was, but there was a small fire down at the base of the mountain near the bottom of the canyon where I drive up to park, and there a fire started down there. So I started, I had my radio at that time. I already had my radios and all that, and I was hearing all the chatter, and I heard that there was going to be a possible evacuation. And so I was out there at the cabin. It was on a summer evening, and I know because it was a little bit late, I think about 6:30 or so, and it was still light. And I heard someone yell down. The young guy says, "Sir, sir," and I came out and I looked, and it was these two search and rescue guys, and I recognized one of them because I've known a lot of these guys. And he goes, "Oh, hey, Steve, it's time to leave. Pack it up. You got to go." And I was holding a martini glass in my hand at the time, and I kind of held it up, and I said, "Okay, Rick, can you give me 5 minutes here?" And he goes, "Yes, sir." And that was getting evacuated from the cabin one Saturday evening. KI6LOV.
All right, thank you, Steve. And that would be kind of strange, but at least, like you said, you knew a lot of the people up there, a lot of the rangers and the pack station people. I mean, after that many years, I'm sure you've been around, so they know you very well. And we're talking with Steve, KI6LOV. Tonight he's giving us a few more cabin stories. The book will be coming out probably in about 6 months, and stories from the cabin. I wish he would write a book. No, well, might have to work on that, Steve. Let's see who else is out there. Let's take a few more check-ins. Maybe someone that hasn't checked in yet hasn't had a chance to check in or something, and that would be great to hear from you. If you have a question for Steve, we'd love to hear that too, and anything you have for the net. So let's take another 4 or 5 check-ins, and we'll go from there.
KF4PQH. Kilo Oscar 6, Juliet Golf Echo.
All right, let's go with those two. We've got Ron, KF4PQH, and KO6, Juliet Golf Echo. That's what it was. Pretty sure, but we'll find out. Ron, let's say hello to Ron, KF4PQH. Where are you at tonight? This week, I should say, not just tonight, but week to week. You move around quite a bit. We'll see how far you got. Go ahead, Ron, and welcome.
This is KF4PQH. Thank you, Bob and Annette. Love Steve's stories. I was privileged to be on the other night that he did this presentation for the first time, and I'm actually sitting at my computer right now looking at the pictures from the trip with Matt coming up. But I am in Matamoros, Pennsylvania. Matamoros, Pennsylvania is across the river from Port Jervis, New York. And where I am is actually where New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania come together. Going to be up here until Thursday, actually Wednesday, I'm sorry, and then we're going to make a stop at Gettysburg for one night, and then we will be at our new house in Fredericksburg, Virginia, and we're going to stay put for a little while. And initially, right now, I'm talking on the P25 bridge using my Zoom spot through my phone hotspot, and so we'll get something set up there at the house as we get there. But looking forward to maybe some changes in our life and lifestyle. Who knows? One day at a time. Good to hear everybody, and thanks for the stories. Appreciate it. This is KF4PQH, back to net control, 7-3, everybody. And remember Memorial Day today, and we watched the concert on the mall on PBS. That was always powerful for me. It's KF4PQH, back to net.
Well, thank you, Ron. It's always great to hear from you and where you and Dee are at. And I guess I can find that pretty easily on the map. I'll just look to see where those three states come together and put a pin. There you go. I'll figure it out. But, yeah, sounds good. And looks like you're looking forward to getting back there to kind of settle down for a little bit and see that you're going to have a lot of fun back there. Got a lot of family, so enjoy. And we'll miss you out here for sure. We'll get a chance to meet up one of these days. Let's say hello to, I don't have a name, so give us your name, KO6, Juliet Golf Echo.
Hi, this is Kilo Oscar 6, Juliet Golf Echo. My name's Randy, and I'm in the foothills of Glendale, and I'm talking to you on Papa 3.
Well, you're coming through just great, Randy. What you got for us tonight? Any questions for Steve or any comments?
No questions for Steve. A great story about bears. I don't get out much anymore, but I've had my fair share of encounters with bears and bear characters and bear cubs up in the eastern Sierras. So anyway, just have a great Memorial Day and 73s to everybody.
Well, great to have you here, Randy, and thank you for coming by. And, yeah, have a safe Memorial Day tomorrow. And like we've all said, just keep in mind why we're doing it. I know when I was in the working field of working, does that make sense? I looked forward to every holiday I could get any time off, especially if it was a banking holiday or something like that. And so, you know, I may have a few times thought, oh, great, you know, it's Memorial Day weekend, yay, it's 3 days off, and really didn't give it a whole lot of, no, I did, but just at first not thinking. The first thing I thought it wasn't the reason for doing it, so I've made up for that now. This is W6CJX for the Papa System, Great Outdoor Net. We're talking to Steve KI6LOV. He has a great little cabin up there in the woods and San Gabriel Mountains that you can only get to by hiking. No roads that'll take you up there. Or maybe Steve CIK's helicopter. Where is Steve anyway? Haven't heard from him in a while. Okay, well, let's see if Steve's got another story for us. God, I love them all, so I don't know, and I know most of them, or of them, but I'd love to just take a pick and see what you think will fit in this little puzzle we got going here. And send it over to you, Steve, W6CJ.
All right, Bob. Well, my cabin is in a place in the trail system where most people who do a regular day hike don't hike past it. Most of the people I see coming through near my cabin are doing a big loop up to Mount Wilson and around. And so that's going to be, depending on exactly where you go, anywhere from like 12 to 14 miles. So that's a big day. So usually late in the afternoon is when a lot of people are coming down from Mount Wilson. And there have been many times where people come down and they notice they can see my outhouse from the trail. So they'll come down, or maybe they've been there before and they know there's a cabin, and they come to see if someone's around, and they have run out of water. And there was one time in particular, I remember many years ago, where there was a young guy and he was like really bad. He did not prepare properly, and he likely could have filled up his water at Mount Wilson, but for whatever reason he didn't. So it's a 4-mile hike down from there to get to where my cabin is, and I was able to fill up his water bottle for him and get him back on the trail. But that brings up the idea that my cabin is really in the wilderness. It might be just 5 miles over the mountain to the big city, but when you go out to hike in a place like Santa Anita Canyon, you need to be prepared. You're not going to the park. You are going out into the wilderness. There are no services for the most part. There is no cell coverage. And I am fortunate to have amateur radio, and not only that, but we've got in the canyon other security radio frequencies that I use. And that brings up how I got into amateur radio, Bob. So if you'd like me to tell that story, I will. If you want to take some more check-ins, it's up to you. It's your net. This is KI6LOV.
Well, when you have 2 net controllers running a net, or one net controller running a net, and the other net controller is a guest, you're kind of hoping the other one will take it over. Just go with it, and I'll sit back and relax. No, I'm not kidding. I love that story. We talked about that the other day, and well, let's throw it out, see if we can get a couple more check-ins with anything, and then let's tell that story, because that's what I just had in the back of my mind. It's like we're reading each other's mind tonight. I don't know. It's pretty cool. But, okay, let's take a few more check-ins. And even if you're just a check-in, come on in. Say hello. If you have a question for Steve or a comment on anything, put it out there, and we'll get it answered for you. And just otherwise, just say hello, and happy Memorial Day weekend, and hopefully everyone's going to be safe, and like I said, just keep in mind what it's all about. That's the main thing. So let's take a few more check-ins. Anyone else out there like to come back in?
KO6BKX.
KM6ABH.
KO6COJ.
K6DV.
All right, look at that. I was able to write call signs and come back and fill in the names. Well, let's see. We got Evo, RJ, Johnny, and Ellen. Let's go with Evo, KO6BKX. Great that you had a good turnout there today in Tustin. So I really appreciate you sharing that with us at the beginning of the net. Go ahead there, Evo.
Yeah, Bob, KO6BKX here. I don't really have a question, but I do want Steve to know that I'm really enjoying the net, and it's nice to hear those stories and experiences that he has in his cabin or at his cabin there. So again, thanks, Steve, for being here and talking to us about your life, I would say. All right, back to you, Bob. Thanks for doing the net, KO6BKX.
Well, thank you, Evo, and like I said again, thank you for hosting the Tustin event today. We're a busy person. I heard you on the Simplex debrief this morning, and I thought now he's got to rush out and go to the park. So we were going, oh boy, he's got a busy schedule, and then Darren too with all the stuff he was doing this last week. So thanks to both of you guys for that. I think it's been a major part of Steve's life. Just the few years that I've known Steve, since 2013, he's had, we've talked about it many times, of course, and I said, always been envious because I'd love to go see it, and I do, it's going to be one of my bucket list items for sure, and we'll have to get it done. Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you, Evo, and let's go to RJ, KM6AVH. What's going on, RJ? Welcome and good evening.
Hey, good evening, all. Yeah, I just turned the radio on, so other than the topic of Steve's great stories from the cabin, maybe he'll tell us what the walls would say at that cabin if they could talk. So I don't know if there's any other topic other than Memorial Day, but I think that's just about it. Had a relaxing day. Didn't do anything. Made a pizza for lunch. Not much else. KM6AVH, back to net control. LOV with the comment, Bob.
Go ahead, Steve.
Well, RJ, I'll put it to you this way. What happens at the cabin stays at the cabin. And as you can imagine, back in the day when I was up there for like the first 10 years of cabin experience up there with all my college friends and all that, you can fill in the blanks yourself. It's like an old-fashioned novel. You can do the dirty work yourself. KI6LOV, take it away, Bob.
Well, you know, that could be the sequel to your book, If the Walls Could Talk. I think Steve was probably there for most of everything. It seems like he was, maybe in the early days before Steve ever went to the cabin. Okay, let me ask another question real quick, and I think this would be interesting. And now we can look all this up, but when exactly was your cabin built? And maybe let us know, we've got Johnny coming up, but just let us know when it was built, and I know we can maybe get into a little bit later as far as how it was built and, you know, how they got lumber up there, because when I first thought of this cabin, I'm thinking, okay, they cut down some trees, they made a regular log cabin out of it, but no, this looks like this could have been, you know, built in the city somewhere. I mean, it's still a cabin, it's got that rusticness, definitely, all the way, but they didn't drive in there with trucks, so let us know a little bit about that real quick.
All right, so a lot of the story is shrouded in mystery. However, I do know that it was built in a 2-year time frame from 1932 to 1934 by 2 young men who basically carried all the materials in themselves. That back in those times they couldn't afford to have the burro train bring things in for them, so they would get off work in the evening in the summertime when there was a lot of daylight, and they would carry things in. I was told by the woman who was the daughter of one of the builders of the cabin that her father would take 2 trips in after work carrying bags of concrete with river sand. And they did this, and it took them 2 years to build the cabin. And I suspect they never imagined that it would last as long as it has. But that's the short version, Bob. KI6LOV, back to you.
Yeah, that's all kind of coming back to me now a little bit. I know I think we talked on that before, but gosh, back in the 30s, I mean, 32, 33, and to think that they would actually go after work. I mean, I can barely, when I work, come home from work and make 2 trips into the kitchen just to get a beer or something cold to drink, let alone carrying a lot of lumber materials and whatever, building materials. That's when men were men. That's for sure. Okay. Well, thanks for adding that in there, Steve. And let's say hello to Johnny, KO6COJ. What's going
Hey, good evening, Bob, and happy Memorial Day weekend to everybody. I just wanted to say, kind of mirror Evo's comments. Really enjoy listening to the stories and the history of the cabin there, and good to hear everyone out there on the net. It's been a while since I've been on, but I'm back. But anyway, everybody's sounding great, and look forward to the rest of the net. This is Johnny, KI6LOV. Back to net control, 73.
Thank you, Johnny. You know, these stories you're only going to hear them here. You're not going to, I don't think, well, Steve might go on a tour and tell his stories across the country, but you know, you're hearing it kind of here first, and it's knowing someone that's got something so precious as a cabin that he's been attached to for the last 50 years is pretty rare, I think. You're not going to find that too many places, so it is pretty fascinating. And like I said, there's a million stories out there. Some are, are probably better than others, and we're hitting some of the highlights there tonight. So thank you, Johnny. Good to hear from you today, and see if we can give you a holler there tomorrow. Ellen, let's see, Ellen, K6TV, how you doing? What's going on out there, Ellen? Go ahead, take it.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, what a little... Anyway, I got a small story about that canyon and the cabins up there because, boy, I didn't realize that's where your cabin was, Steve. I was invited up there by Judy Drinker Collins, who owned a cabin and had been in her family forever, back in 1997. And there were 8 of us, 4 couples, my soon-to-be married with me spousal unit, and a bunch of other friends. So this is an annual thing they did all the time, and I just got invited along since I was now part of the pack. They called it Ground Awareness Day, where you got in touch with the ground, because that's where you slept. It was a hilarious 3-day weekend and a fabulous time. And like you said, what stays in the canyon and happens in the canyon stays there. So thanks for bringing back a whole bunch of memories. Appreciate it so much. And you take care, all. K6DV, great net.
We have a connection. Thank you. Go ahead, Steve.
All right, Ellen. Very, very cool. Do you happen to remember the number of their cabin? That way I can put it on the map in my mind. Some of the names, the names have changed for obvious reasons. But anyway, do you remember the name of the cabin? And that's very cool that you've actually been in the canyon there.
Sweetie pie, I was deliriously in love. I had stars in my eyes. And the only thing I saw that weekend was my delightful spousal unit to be. But I probably have that somewhere buried in the detritus of many years of storing digital images and such all. Anyway, great memories. Thank you. And yeah, if I find it, I'll definitely give you a shout out and get it to you. K6TV.
All right, Ellen. You are a gem, let me tell you. So if you find some info, you could send me an email at mycallsign@yahoo.com. So anyway, Bob, I'm having a lot of fun here. I was kind of looking at some of my notes, and, it's your net, but I've got some stories still have yet to be told. So back to you, Bob.
Well, I agree 100%. And thank you, Ellen. That's we made that connection there. See, now where else would you make that connection except on amateur radio? I think that's pretty special. But we got time, and I'm going to maybe go a little extended tonight if we want to. That's fine, too. So we'd love to hear some more stories. We're just kind of tossing it back and forth, take a few and tell a few, and I think that's great. So go ahead with anything you want to tell us. I think we're all willing and able and want to hear some more stories. So give us something you got there. Go ahead, Steve.
All right, Bob. Well, this is kind of a short one. And one of the things that I always have done during the hot summer days, especially in July and August out there, is there's a nearby my cabin is what I call the Zen pool, and it's a nice little swimming hole, and it's always the right thing to do to go up there and take a little dip. And there was one afternoon I finished doing some work around the cabin, and it was not quite dinner time, and I went up there, and I take off my glasses, of course, and go and take a little dip in the Zen pool, and I'm splashing around, and it's so nice, and I kind of see something, and this is maybe it's not a large pool, it's like about 8 or 9 feet in diameter with a little waterfall coming into it, and I see something kind of floating in the water on the other side, and I go over to check it out, and it's a big, dead, bloated rat floating in my Zen pool. And to think I was just splashing around and having a great time, and that's what I call a buzzkill. So, yeah, that was the end of my day in the Zen pool right there. Back to you, Bob.
Yeah, I think that would call for a second martini, for sure, or whatever. Another couple of shots of something. Boy, that's just like, okay, I'll shrug that one off. Boy. This just sounds like a paradise. I mean, and it is, but since I haven't been there, I can't really, but I've seen the pictures, and it just sounds like, one turn after another as you go through that place. It sounds great. And I guess like you were saying, the trail is a little bit higher up, but they can kind of look down and maybe see your cabin or see the outhouse portion of that. So I guess that's what you use for the bathroom part. So it is rustic. It's not there's no power, plumbing, or anything like that. And of course, you rely on the stream and the creek for water. And then everything else you got to bring, and everything else you got to pack out. So that's true too. All right, let's take one more last check-ins. Let's see if we have a couple more questions. Let's see if maybe finish up with another good story. And really appreciate all.
Lima Delta, Dan on Echo Link from Boise, Idaho.
Cabin from Boise, Idaho. Okay, we got you from Boise. Okay, so we'll take him, and then what is any other stations that have a question or two? We'll just one last call for check-ins for tonight, and then we'll just any questions there for Steve, that'd be great. I'll stand by.
Foxtrot Golf with Kilo 6 Whiskey, Kilo Whiskey, Papa 21.
All right, we got those three. So the station in Idaho coming on Echolink, please come back. We'd love to hear from you. And if you have any questions for Steve and Steve's cabin, you can go direct with him. Otherwise, or have a comment, we'll take that too. So give us your name and the call sign one more time. And welcome to the great outdoors.
Good evening. This is Kilo 7, Romeo Lima Delta, Dan out of Boise, Idaho via Echo Link. I have no idea about that. I used to be stationed in San Diego years ago in the Marine Corps, and I found out about Echo Link a couple days ago and decided to go hit the old hometown repeaters. And I've been listening to your guys' bear stories, and they're quite interesting and a little humorous.
Well, thank you, Dan. Yeah, this is kind of our third edition with Steve's Cabin. A year ago, it was our first one, and we just thought, well, we didn't even really plan it completely to say, oh, this is exactly a year tonight, but it was. It was actually May 24th that we did the very first one. So it was just kind of we fell into that. I guess that was kind of a fun thing. All right, well, thank you, Dan. Yeah, you're sounding good on Echolink from Idaho. So congratulations on that, and don't be a stranger. We We have a net on every night here on the Papa system, so come on in and say hello. And if you have questions for some of the other technical nets that we have, we'll be happy to help out with that. So you're welcome to come into any of the nets. Let's say hello to Steve at WA6FGW. Welcome.
Okay, good evening to Bob and the net. This is WA6 Foxtrot Golf Whiskey. And no particular comments per se. I just, having been there, it's the neatest little cabin there for sure. And I wonder if you have any pictures that you might have online or something. It's been so long I can't quite recall what it looked like. Anyway, keep the stories coming also. Those are great. WA6 Foxtrot Golf Whiskey.
Yeah, that's right. I remember you went up there a few times. And I think you and Neil, or maybe John, or Neil and John, I don't remember exactly who. Steve could tell us that part. But yeah, you've actually been up there. So go to the website, Steve, the Papa website, and look for the magnifying glass as you look up stuff. And you can just type in cabin. I tried it a couple of times today. I tried Steve's cabin, it comes up, and/or just type in cabin, and then anything cabin will come up. But I believe the first one is called Beyond RF, and with Steve's cabin. And there's some great pictures, awesome pictures of a bear, and just the flora and the fauna that's up there. And you'll probably remember Steve's cabin when you see it. Thank you, Steve, as always. We appreciate you being there. And let's say hello to Warren. You've got so many different K's and W's. I'm just going to say Warren, but I know you. How you doing, Warren, and welcome.
Fine, good evening to all. I'm a late arriving tonight, but yeah, that's true. It's kind of like C.W. McCall talking about the Black Bear Road, a whole bunch of Z's and W's thrown together. So it's Kilo 6 Whiskey, Kilo Whiskey. So good evening to all. Yeah, I remember some of the topics on Steve's cabin before. I don't remember the details, unfortunately. I'm up at my cabin right now, coming in through Papa 21 in Redlands, looking down from Arrow Bear. This community was actually a tent camping getaway for San Bernardino, probably in the 1930s. So the lots are all very small. They were intended for people to be able to come up, get out of the heat, and set up tents. But it's built up a lot past that. However, some of the people set the wood platform for their tent, and close to the edge, and little by little it got built into houses. So the setbacks and there are encroachments, a lot of peculiar stuff here, but all adds to the fun and stuff. I was going to comment though. Having traveled some in southwestern Colorado and done the Jeep roads and been well up above timberline in mining territory, it is absolutely amazing what people are able to transport, how much tonnage, how they do it, I don't know. I've seen things that weighed multiple tons, single large cast pieces of iron or steel that were used in stamp mills way, way up above timberline. And yeah, they might have used mules to move them, but it wasn't like 20 mule team borax. It would have been just a few, and they'd had to drag it. Oh my God, it's incredible what they've done. So getting the stuff to Steve's cabin was probably interesting, but people were, let's say, sturdy and determined. And you can get a lot done with that combination, I think. So anyway, thought I'd just add that. But also to say, good evening to all. Good to hear everything that's out here. Back to net, K6WKW.
Well, how about that, Warren? Coming in from a cabin on the cabin net here. Perfect. And yeah, I've seen a lot of that also, but it's actually been from my armchair watching on YouTube. And I know we have a lot of favorite gold mines and ghost towns, and I've seen that too, where they'll go and they'll show this old, I mean, they didn't take it away when they shut the mine down because it was probably too heavy, but how in the heck did they get it there? They didn't have, big crane helicopters back then. We didn't have big trucks or tractors to pull it up there. Yeah, it's kind of like the building of the pyramids, you know. How the heck did they do that? So maybe it's one of those miracles in life, for sure. Well, always good to hear you, Warren. Thank you so much for checking in from me. You're coming in just beautiful on the Redlands repeater. Wow. You've got a nice swath of RF right there to the repeater. But never know that you're not here. But I did see that you're coming in on Redlands, so that's always a good one, 2021. Okay, well, that, I think, is the end of our check-in period. I think we did pretty good there. I want to see if Steve has a closing statement. It sounds like we're on trial here. Any closing arguments or statements for the district attorney tonight, and we'll see what we close out with. Pick a story or two, whatever you want, and sounds good. This is W6CJX for the Papa System. Sunday night, Great Outdoor Net, and we're talking to Steve KI6LOV and cabin stories. So let's see if Steve has anything else to close us out with.
All right, thank you, Bob. And it's been a fun night here, as always. And what I'd like to finish up with here is the reason I'm here and able to tell you all these stories and to share this with the Papa membership and all the people listening is that way back in the early 2021, maybe something like that, I was talking with one of my search and rescue buddies when they had a little show and tell up at Chantry Flat, and they would, Sierra Madre Search and Rescue would bring up their trucks and have a day and show their equipment and everything. And I was talking with one of the old guys there. His name was Dick Sale, and he was a legendary search and rescue man. And he had on his table a radio, and it was a Yaesu VX6R. I have one sitting on my desk right in front of me right now. And I said, wow, Dick, that is this is before I had a ham radio license or I knew anything about radios. And I told him, I said, this is a really cool looking radio. How do I get one of those? And he said, you know, you need to go get a ham radio license. And I kind of thought, I don't know about that. And so anyway, finished up with their show and tell and all that. So the search and rescue team, and you can look them up, Sierra Madre Search and Rescue, one of the premier rescue teams around. I used to see them on the trail all the time, and these were legendary people out there training, taking care of business. And a couple of months later, after that event there at Chantry Flat, I met up with Dick Sale again, and he asked me, well, how's your study coming along? And I kind of looked at him, and I asked, what do you mean? And he goes, for your ham radio license. And that's what kicked me into gear. Got my license, joined the Papa system, and I've been able to call in a couple of rescues and help people out, and that's why I'm here tonight with all of you. So with that, I'm going to say 7-3 for now, and I'll give it back to you, Bob. This is KI6LOV.
Well, that's great, Steve. And we'll just keep those stories in the woods and bring them out to play another time, for sure. We enjoyed that very much. And I enjoyed that story because I think we all have a story. And maybe we'll just cover that one night of, you know, not just how you got your license, but why did you get your license? And maybe in most cases it's going to be outdoor related, I think. So look forward to maybe we can all share our stories on how we got them or who got us interested. You don't just, you know, wake up one morning and go, I'm going to go take a ham exam and get my license. You have to at least think about it a little bit or have someone encourage you to do it. So with that, this is W6CJX for the Papa System Great Outdoor Net. Go ahead and wrap it up, and had a really good time. Time just goes by so fast when you're having fun and listening to some of these cabin stories. It just sounds like a wonderful place, Steve. So thank you for sharing that with us again, and we do appreciate that. So anybody that's interested or maybe just came in halfway through, didn't hear that, you can go to the PAPA website, papasys.com. Just do a find, a lookup, or you can just put cabin in the lookup there and type that in, his cabin story. The Beyond RF will come up, and you'll be able to scroll through a little bit of the history, a little bit of everything that Steve's talked about tonight a little bit, and also the great pictures and some footage, and also the tracking that was taken on the day that Matt, K3MAT, and Steve went on this hike. So with that, I'd like to say thank you to all the stations checking in tonight, and as someone else once said, all the listeners out there, thank you for listening. And, of course, the PAPA members for supporting the PAPA system and paying their dues and keeping this all possible so that we can have it. Cecil with his legendary leadership, and, of course, everyone behind the scenes taking care of the computer. A lot of stuff going on. They don't really realize it. We'll have to try to expose some of it one of these days. And, of course, the guys that go to the mountaintop try to get these things, keep them working, do a great job, adding their... not only maintaining the mountaintops, but they're actually adding to the mountaintops. So we're up to getting up there on the scale of all these repeaters out there. So I want to thank all the net controllers for everything they do. Thank you to Gilbert last night for running the Saturday night roundtable for Darren. Darren had a big week and well-deserved time off and some family time there. So. All right, I'll say 7-3 to everybody. We'll close the net at 21:46 and turn the system back to normal amateur use at this point. And we'll look forward to seeing you next week out here on the Great Outdoors. 7-3, guys. And gals. And bears. And newts. And nuns. Anyone else that's out there. Night crickets.